Welcome to Burning Bright, a weekly podcast presenting poetry and prose from Passenger. July 4th was America's Independence Day. July 14th is Bastille Day. It commemorates the day in 1789 when French rebels stormed the Bastille, a Paris prison. It held people who'd been arrested without a public reason given, or without the power to appeal the arrest. Just over a month later, the French equivalent of our Declaration of Independence, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, was proclaimed. Here's a poem not about political independence, but about a sense of personal independence, the freedom to dream. As we get older, we know that most dreams don't exactly come true, but when we're younger, we have every reason to believe they will. Sundays by Susan Lilley. My parents sometimes loaded us up for a drive through the lonely heart of Florida to check on my dad's experiment as a part-time citrus baron. Death Valley was a small, low patch compared to the vast waves of orange groves stretching as far as you could see from the family station wagon. Nothing flourishing here except volunteer watermelon vines, fire ants, the occasional rattlesnake, and gopher turtles the size of my brother's Tonka trucks. I liked how Dad would smack his old white tennis hat against his thigh and mutter, "God damn it," as he surveyed the scrawny trees in their haphazard rows. Reading Nancy Drew in the back seat, I usually refused to get out of the car for the lackluster stroll around the sandy acre or so, a minefield of killer ants just waiting for a kid in flip-flops to kick their little kingdoms. Dad might have felt better if he knew that one day they'd all fail, even the big growers. Crescent City Belle, Jolly Roger, Flamingo, Red Cloud, Silver King. He'd miss the smell of orange blossoms every spring, and in winter, the burnt cake perfume that citrus refineries blew into Florida evenings for 3 generations. When he bought this ruin, he must have been dreaming of those old pictures of Mom as the orange blossom queen, posed in an off-the-shoulder frock on a little white ladder among lush branches dotted with flowers. Healthy fruit on the way. Sundays, Susan Lilley, from Passenger, issue 61. The 2023 Passenger poet is George Drew. He said this about his work.
I've always loved the dramatic monologue as a genre, a la Browning, Frost, Eliot, Lowell, Shakespeare, and so many others. And I've written my share of them. But the lyric is, of course, musical, and for me is really an important element in poetry. I think my need to write poetry emerged from a deep love of language engendered by my Southern-tuned ear and my desire to make music. Not having any actual musical training or talent, other than a brief fling with the guitar, I ultimately turned to poetry, and over the years, that has proven to be my instrument, my music, for good or ill, and as it turned out, a wise choice. Both the rich Delta blues tradition that I was raised in, and also oral tradition, are the natural inclination of my poetry toward the musical.
That was from an interview with George Drew, the 2023 Passenger poet. The 2023 Poetry Contest issue will be out in early fall. A few weeks ago was Commissioning Week at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. And one of the highlights of the week was a show by the Navy's Blue Angels Precision Jet Fighter Squad. We'll end this edition of Burning Bright with one more poem about freedom, Blue Angels, by Claudia van Gerven. She wrote it, quote, "for Faith, with whom I have exchanged a poem a week for 25 years. We were a squadron of two housewives in the cockpits of our ordinary lives, flying as ordinary lives do at supersonic speeds. You would roll off to L.A. or Chicago or depression. I would do barrel rolls in place, losing my equilibrium. We would crisscross, chatting merrily into the radio or weeping. We never noticed our own death-defying feats, the unprecedented angles, the near collisions. You did flybys over Christopher's grave, your brother's. I wandered off like Amelia Earhart, trying to get back to the place before the miscarriage. None of these maneuvers were planned. We couldn't fathom how each loop-de-loop, each high-speed decision would resonate, affect the air pressure in each cabin, change the very sky we flew through. Claudia van Gerven's poem, Blue Angels. The two poems on this edition of Burning Bright came from Passager's 2005 Poetry Contest issue. The 2023 Poetry Contest issue will be out this fall. To subscribe to or learn more about Passager and its commitment to writers over 50, go to passagerbooks.com. You can download Burning Bright from Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and various other podcast apps. For Kendra, Mary, Christine, Roseanne, and the rest of the Passager staff, I'm John Shore.